All right, thanks for checking in. Today we're going to go through how to reseal a neck seal gasket on a dry top. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. I find the best way is to make sure you get an actual kit from one of the companies that provide these awesome dry gear. It comes with a bunch of clips and also the items you'll need to apply some pressure on the seam. You'll need to have some sandpaper as well as your actual gasket, as well as I like to have a couple of paddle pop sticks just so that you can spread the seam seal around nice and evenly, and some aqua-seal or seam grip, whatever you prefer, just to make sure that you get a nice good seal between your old gasket and your new gasket. So your first step is you need to trim your gasket just so you have a little bit remaining, just enough so that you can attach your new seal to it. When you do cut it, make sure you cut it nice and straight so that it doesn't have any straight lines through it. Otherwise that's just going to split all the way through. So we want to have just a little bit there so that we can attach our next neck seal onto it. Before you do this, you've got to make sure that your dry top is dry as well as the seals and the gaskets. Otherwise you're not going to get a good seal between the two. What we're going to do is we're going to turn it inside out. By turning it inside out, we're going to be able to see where the actual seal and the neck gasket is for the old gasket. And we're going to apply this piece of wood that's just going to go directly underneath it. And by doing that, that's going to give us a nice stable platform. And as you can see, we're getting a nice stable flat platform there for our neck seal. Now with this sandpaper, you're just going to score it just slightly on the underneath side of the gasket. This will provide us a good surface that the aqua-seal or the seam seal can actually stick to. So we're just going to score it lightly, not so hard so it's going to go through, but just enough as we go all around the edges to provide us a good rough surface for our seam seal kit to be able to adhere to. There's no hard and fast way how to do this. You just want to make sure you score it just enough so that there's lots of lines throughout the underside of the neck seal. Now before you put this stable platform in the neck seal kit, you actually want to apply either a little bit of double-sided tape or masking tape which is backed up on itself so that we have a sticky surface on the bottom as well as on the top. We're going to apply it just on the edges, and we're just going to do it all around the edges. So as you can see, I've gone around the edges there and just applied a little bit of tape just so that we can adhere the neck seal to that stable platform. You probably don't need to put as much as I have. A couple of pieces on each side is enough, but you can just see there I've gone around the edges with a bit of masking tape and backed upon itself so that we've got sticky platform on the top as well as underneath, and it's going to stick to this piece of wood. Then we just put it in underneath the gasket like so. So as you can see, it'll provide us a nice stable platform that we can apply our gasket to. Now because we've just scored the underside of this gasket, we need to do the same for our new gasket. Now when we're about to apply this, make sure you get it in the right direction, because I've put it in the wrong direction before. It still works, but you'll want the right side to be facing up. And to do that, you want to make sure that if there's any ridges or lines that you might be able to see just on the top there, they want to be facing out so that they don't go up against your neck. The reason for those lines is you can actually cut it to your desired neck thickness. So, for this to go in the right way, I need to make sure that I place it upside down. I'm actually going to use a Nalgene or a cup to be able to make sure that it sits nice and flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place the neck seal on top of your cup or an Algene or something that's just going to hold it so it doesn't slip down. As you can see, this basket or bucket, small bucket, will actually hold it nicely. Now we've got to make sure that when we do place it on and it goes back and underneath the old neck seal, it sits in the right direction. So you might want to put it on, trial it, pull it through and make sure that it's sitting in the right place. Otherwise you're not going to have the neck seal in the right direction. So for this to be applied on properly, we actually turn the neck seal inside out. So when we score this, we're going to make sure we score the underside of this right now, which will in effect be the top side of the gasket. Now I've scored the underside of your gasket, which in effect will actually be the top side. As you can see, that's facing the right direction now, but I've flipped it upside down. So I've scored that side of your gasket, and we're just going to sit it so it sits nice and flat and adjust it so that the seal sits flat around the old seal, nice and straight. Now using your aqua-seal or your seam grip glue, you're just going to apply a line of it around the outside of your neck seal. After you've done that, using a paddle pop stick or a plastic spoon, just spread it evenly so you've got a nice flat layer and a good evenly distributed layer of glue. I like to have at least an inch of glue spreading across your gasket. Okay, finally with your new gasket, make sure it sits nice and flat and you're just going to place it down on the old gasket. Just work it around to make sure you've got it sitting nice and flat. With your semicircular pieces of wood, you're just going to apply them on top of your gasket, just to apply a nice even spread of weight distribution pushing down flat. Now with your pegs, you're just going to apply them over on top of the pieces of semicircular wood, and that's going to evenly distribute some good pressure across the entire neck seal. Now that we're finished with it, you're just going to let it sit for about 12 to 24 hours and make sure it sets nicely. When you leave it, make sure you leave it in somewhere out of the sun so it can dry in its own accord and not too fast. So yeah, that's it. As you can see, we've got a nice strong bonding between our old gasket and our new gasket, and it's going to give us a nice, good, warm layering throughout those cold winter months. My hot tip is, if you dry your gear, make sure you dry it out of direct sunlight. Direct sunlight will actually degrade the seals as well as the layering, so you want to keep it out of direct sunlight when you do dry your wet gear. So thanks for checking in. That's it. That's how you replace a gasket. I hope to see you next time, or I'll see you on the river. Cheers.